Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today? Well, we'll be vibing out as per usual. What we'd be talking about today? Well, I was yesterday. I was yesterday. I was a bit busy yesterday because I was hanging out with some friends and stuff. We actually went to go see a movie. We went to go see Black Panther, the second Black Panther. Wakanda Forever? Is that what it's called? I've talked about like superheroes and Marvel stuff before, where basically my general consensus is like, it's not really my sort of thing, but if you like it, you like it. That's, just how it goes, really. I can find it, like, entertaining, but I'm not, like, invested into it, is probably how I describe it. I'm not really going to talk about Black Panther that much, but so it'll be, like, these first, like, 5 minutes, maybe. But anyway, hello, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow at 6:25 p.m. on Monday, November 14th, 2022. I don't really want to talk about, like, like a Marvel movie, as in that, like... I do normally talk about movies as like review after I've seen them, like from the Animal Crossing episode, but I feel like bad kind of talking about Marvel because I'm just like, I literally know nothing, not nothing, but I have so little investment, but I don't really know what's going on. Like, I haven't even seen the first Black Panther and we watched the second. What was my general thought of it? I thought it was fine. It is my, I like bits and pieces of it. Amusingly, the parts I liked the most were like the sort of, I don't know, like we're sort of like not vying for power, but like we're interpersonal like relationships. I guess that's not surprising for me, but between people. So I guess mild spoilers for Black Panther is I'd probably there might be mild spoilers if I accidentally let them split, but I'm not going to spoil anything big because we're not going to talk about that much. I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen the first one. Second one I thought was fine. First one was apparently really, really good from what I heard. The things I found interesting about the second one is that I wonder what African people and I suppose Mexican people as well actually think of it, because it's a movie which actually draws I assume quite a lot on certain traditions from Africa, certain traditions of Mexico. Like the same way, basically what I'm trying to say is like, I'm Chinese and, I watch Shang-Chi and I was like, that's quite, descriptive of like some of the Chinese experience. I would say, well, more like Chinese parents moving to a Western country and then that child's experience, I suppose. What was it, like first level immigrants or something? I'm not sure if level is the right word. And, I'm just like, Shang-Chi, I actually think kind of portrays it reasonably well, to be honest. And then I'm just like, I wonder what, like, the same people about Black Panther, of course, trying to appeal to in that same sense. Think of it, does it do a good job? Does it not? I don't really know. But it has an interesting mix of, like, traditions mixing in with a very futuristic setting, which I thought I think that's a very interesting sort of, like, world-building thing, isn't it? Having, obviously, and I assume, like, what I can gather in the Marvel universe, everything is, like, now super futuristic. I think I assume they're far in the future now for Marvel, because everything's, like, flying spaceships, etc., whatever have you. But they still, like, keep to very traditional roots, or they still keep, like, the traditional culture alive, in a sense, with certain things. This isn't really a major spoiler because it happens like in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Like, there's a funeral because unfortunately, the person who played Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, is that his name? Passed away, which I didn't actually know about. My friend told me before we watched this movie, and then I was like, oh yeah, wait, I think I actually did see like a news article about this ages ago. And there's like a funeral procession in it, but it's interesting to see the sort of like dichotomy between such a really advanced civilization, but also very traditional like roots and ways they do like celebrations and like rituals were like a spiritual healing, I suppose, in a sense. I thought that was a pretty interesting sort of like lore thing, that Marvel does. I don't know. Rest of the movie, it was fine. As I say, I like the interpersonal conflict. Right? There's a scene which I don't know how to say without spoiling it, but a scene between, I guess I could say the characters, like the Queen and the General? I don't remember her name. Like, is it like okay or something? That's not a bad thing with Marvel. Is like if you go into like the second movie or like later movies or whatever, you're like, I have no idea who any of these characters are, so it's pretty difficult to learn their names. I remember Shuri. I think it's okay. I can't remember anyone else off the top of my head. Oh, there's Riri. That might be spoilers. I can't remember what the Queen's called, I'm going to be honest. Anyway, that scene was really, really good. Is all I can really record. And then, other stuff was basically, like, fine. It was just entertaining. I'm not going to be like, wow, this is, like, the deepest thing I've ever seen or anything. I'm just like, hey, it's kind of fun to watch. That's about it. Also, it's a bit of a long movie. And not everything probably makes sense in the movie, but, it's a thing, certain movies you go into, you have, like, a critical eye, being like, how do they particularly dissect, this, like, their view on society and humanity and what it means to be human and emotions, etc., etc. And some movies go and be like, I'm just here to have a good time, And I think Marvel very much falls into that sort of category. Of course, you can go into the deep dives and the analytical side of like what things like literarily represent and that sort of thing. But on the whole, and at least the way I tend to consume it when I go watch it with my friends, it's like, is it fun? Yeah, it's kind of fun. And that's about it. But anyway, I'm not going to talk. I said I'm not going to talk about it the entire time, but here we are talking about it the entire time. I mean, the main reason I don't want to talk about these sort of things the entire time is, one, I'm still quite ignorant on these sort of things, to be honest, and two, it's quite popular. So if people end up searching like Animal Crossing and then like Marvel or Black Panther or what have you, even they stumble across this video, people are going to be rather disappointed when they find out it's just like some random person talking about tangentially related like Marvel movie stuff with no context of whatever's going on while playing Animal Crossing at the same time. Yeah. But I mean, you might be like, why do you talk about like Disney things? Well, I don't know. I guess I have more context with Disney things. Well, isn't Marvel Disney now anyway? So everything's Disney now in the entertainment world. Yeah, I don't know. I just guess I have more context with things like animated movies and shows, etc. So, I feel more comfortable. Not more comfortable. It's not like I'm comfortable. I'm like, oh, I can't talk about Black Panther because, I've only just watched that movie. Of course I can, but it's just like the context is missing from it. And, this is obviously a one-sided conversation. And, and it's sort of just like, there's not really much to say apart from like, I found it fine. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I talked about that a bit longer than I expected. What I was actually going to talk about today, which is probably what the title of this episode is going to be, because we're probably concluding off the weekend arc, and I did think this was going to be a conversation topic, which I was not going to talk about much, but it was one I thought about, like, earlier today to talk about. I don't know why it was on my mind, but I did. Because there's basically nothing else to talk about sort of like weekend arc, but the thing I was going to talk about is staying up late. And the question, what's the latest you've ever stayed up? Now, well, I mean, it's not a very interesting answer, but but the latest I've ever stayed up is I didn't go to sleep, I suppose. So I guess like the next day is the latest I stayed up. That's not happened very often. Like the times it's happened is probably like less than 5 times in my life, and most of the times it's because of traveling. Like twice it happened because of traveling. Because the one time it was because it was actually when I went to Japan. The first time, our flight with my friend was really, really early. I can't remember how early, but it was early enough that it would be difficult for us to catch public transport and get there in a reasonable amount of time. So I was just like, why don't we just go to the airport? We'll just sleep in the airport overnight. And we went to the airport, and I just didn't sleep. I just stayed up. My friend slept, reasonably, as well as you can sleep on an airport bench. There was actually quite a lot of people actually staying there overnight in an airport. So, It's a very sort of like liminal feeling, I say, like how they have liminal spaces like with back rooms or whatever. Well, maybe not like with back rooms. It's much more sort of like comforting, and back rooms is meant to be kind of like creepy and unsettling, right? This is much more sort of just like a, like a space between worlds sort of feeling. It was very unusual. But, yeah, I stayed up for that entire thing when I slept on the plane. Probably on my back. I don't even remember if I slept on the plane all that much, I'm going to be honest. I might have slept when I came back home, or maybe I just skipped out sleeping for that entire day. I honestly don't recall. But there was another time when we were on a school trip, and we were coming back, and our flight got like crazy delayed. Well, it was meant to be like we would land at like we would be able to be home at 11 p.m. and then we can go to school the next day. But the flight got crazy delayed, etc. We didn't land until like I can't remember top of my head. I assume like 4 a.m. You know what? I bet I had photos on that day, and maybe if I still have a photo, I can look up a timestamp and I can tell you. So what year would that have been? Like 2015? That sounds about right. But it was super late, and we were just like so delayed at the airport. Like it took forever coming back. Let's see, when did I take this picture? 1:18 a.m. Okay, so it wasn't as late as I thought it was. But I remember getting home around like 2 or 3 a.m. or something. It was very late because like the flight just kept getting delayed. I don't know why it got so delayed, but something ended up happening. And then it was actually very cool because it got so delayed, but our teachers like somehow organised a thing where like some students were allowed to go into like the cockpit of a plane and talk to the pilots. And I remember going there, and I remember just asking so many questions to the pilot. Like we were there, and like we could take like pictures or whatever. We like put on the pilots how we sit in the cockpit and that sort of thing. But I just remember I kept asking questions about the thing, being like, what does this do? What does that do? What does that do? Because it's interesting. Because there's so many like controls and buttons and whatever have you. Sorry, drinking water. This is absolutely like smorgasbord of conversation topics. today. It's only like buttons and flicks and switches and things. So of course, first thing now is just like you know what every single thing in this plane cockpit does. And he was like, yes, you're gonna have to fly and play it. And I was like, that makes sense. But I was sort of just like, I was just like, it's an incredible amount of stuff to learn. But I suppose pilots are highly trained for that sort of thing. So that was a pretty cool experience. Anyway, we got home super late. I remember we were like, I saw to my friend being like, I'm on like my fourth wind today, as in like, second wind, where you start getting sleepy and you suddenly get like a burst of energy. I was basically on like the fourth one of those. I just remember being at the airport and, another random memory, just like queuing up and me not even doing anything. And then one of the teachers being like, oi, dear, go like, stop messing around. And I just remember being like, internally, I was like, externally, I was like, yes, or whatever. And then, or just like continue walking up the line or something. But internally, I was like, I didn't even do anything. I don't even know what's going on. But, maybe the teacher was grouchy. So, no, I'll give him a pass for that sort of thing. But yeah, it was a pretty cool time. Not gonna lie. I can't even remember what else I was going to say about it, to be honest. But anyway, staying up late. Most of the time, two times latest we stayed. So actually, turns out the second time was not even that late, but the first time was definitely stayed up late because, didn't go to sleep. And then, still went into school the next day. It was like me, like I remember one of the teachers did, and like a handful of other students still like went into school the next day. I don't know why I just ran over all the flowers. There was no point in doing that, but it was a very interesting school day the next day with like very few hours sleep. But yeah, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? Oh, yes. Anyway, so over the weekend, of course, we watched the League of Legends World Finals, which took place in America. I don't remember quite where in America, I'm going to be honest. But basically, in UK time, it started at midnight, which is, late. But, time zones are a thing, and, it's nice that the finals can be held in all sorts of different places, so it's not really all that big a deal. I think that end up being quite late, so it's like to be expected because it's been quite nice timings throughout previous years, like because it's been held in like Asia, I think, so it started like midday-ish or something, which is fine. And then when it's been held in Europe, of course, it starts like at like dinner time or something, which is not completely unreasonable, but this is the latest been for us. So really, I suppose Europe get quite a pretty good deal. So it starts at midnight, which is not too bad, and we start watching it, that sort of thing. And normally these games are best of fives, but these games are best of fives, but in recent years it's been kind of like one-sided stomps from what I call. I don't really remember it too well. Or the games have been kind of fast, but these games were all quite long, and it went to a best of five, so it ended up finishing at like 5:30 a.m. We're staying up, like not all of us stayed up, like some of us slept throughout the entire thing. I don't think I slept until the thing finished. And I did like close my eyes for a bit, like I was basically essentially nodding off through that final game, which is crazy to say because it was such an intense game. I was basically, every time, like, I would just be closing my eyes, sort of like resting my eyes. I wasn't actually falling asleep or anything, just like closing my eyes because my eyes were tired. And then it was like, anytime like the commentators went, whoa, something started happening, I opened my eyes just to watch the game that's going on. And it got me thinking about that time, because that's like probably the latest I stayed up in recent years. Like, we used to have like sleepovers, of course, with friends about something. We might stay up to like 2 a.m, 3 a.m. And sometimes on rare occasions, I will do it on the weekend if I'm like playing games or something, or like, because some of my friends have very much like late night sort of schedules. I'm not that late night schedule, like I can do it, but I don't love doing it all the time. So, only on weekends sometimes I'll do it. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Actually, and it happened recently as well, because of Genshin Impact, Spiral Abyss stuff. But, that's a story for another time. Not do many people, I think, care about that. Yeah, what was I going to say? I want to clear up those weeds. Okay, fine, we're going to have to go the background. But it's probably the latest I've stayed up in recent memory. There's one time, like, hosted a sleepover, and we stayed up to, like, 5 a.m. And I fell asleep. I was not one of them. I was, like, one of the last four-ish to fall asleep, and, the last thing we were doing was, like, watching Moana, and I fell asleep within the first hour. Not because Moana's a bad movie. I've heard it's amazing, and, it's an absolute travesty. I still haven't gotten around to watching it. But it's, like, I don't know, I was just tired, I guess. That's really all. It's not all that complicated, I suppose. Oh man, the weed's been growing back here for like crazy. Okay, just missing that one there. Yeah, so I was just trying to think of like other times I've stayed up really late in recent memory. Like, there were certainly times in university, like, I'm going to tell you now, if you're going to university and that sort of thing, and you're attempting to do an all-nighter, don't. You'll be much better served going to sleep at normal time, or maybe, let's be honest, you'll sleep at a slightly later time, but being refreshed in the morning, rather than pulling an all-nighter. All-nighters are terrible. Like, I did it once, and then I was like, this sucks. I'm never doing this again. And every other time I've done it, every other time when I'm just like staying up late to do work, I'm just like, you know, I'm just going to go to sleep and I'll do all of it in the morning. I mean, of course, in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do any work. But also, you know, looking back in retrospect, I'm like, I'm glad I faced that day well rested, because, you know, work shouldn't come into the way of like your sleeping schedule and that sort of thing. Of course, that's not always reasonable depending on like what industry or what school work you live in, but hopefully it doesn't have like a permanent impact. And if it does affect your sleeping schedule, then hopefully change can be made so that it doesn't. But, you know, of course, and I'm not like the arbiter of bringing about that sort of change, because I don't really know. I'm talking about a very sort of general case here. I suppose it's kind of hard to really apply it to anything in general, and I'm just, you know, my sympathy goes out towards you if you work in any of those industries. But yeah, what I was basically saying is that, yeah, you know, I do remember times of staying up very late in university and like doing work. I remember one time as well, I was staying up late, like to do work, but I just couldn't figure out a problem. So instead of actually doing a problem, I just like stayed up late, and I just remember I was playing like games on my phone, because I was just like, I'm staying up late because I'm trying to think about the problem, but I literally didn't know the answer. Retrospect, you know, me talking to 20-year-old me back then, hey, go to sleep. There's no point staying up. You're not doing anything, okay? Good. Anyway, I went to sleep at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. that time. But there's a lot of times actually in university I went to sleep with like my lights still on, because I just like was like, oh, I'm just gonna take a little nap, and then I just fell asleep. Was that sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, university life, your sleep schedule gets kind of balked. Well, it doesn't have to, you know. One thing I would stress is, you know, you gotta find a good balance between work, social / like work, life, sleep balance, you know. Those 3 corners. You can have them all, you know. You just don't need to go so hard in all directions necessarily. And if you do, you have to sacrifice a little bit in the others. And can I just say, you should get a base level of sleep in. It's, you know, it's just healthy. Anywho, what other times have I stayed up pretty late? I think it's some major times. Like, there's not, like, especially actually, like, I was pretty good at just going to sleep at, like, normal hours, like, during, like, secondary school sort of timing, you know, and I never stayed up particularly late to do work. But the latest, actually, you know, a WASP model? Random. I do remember, actually, there's one art homework we had, which was to make a clock based on like an artistic style or something, and I missed that first lesson of artistic styles that people went through, so I just randomly picked one off Wikipedia. It was De Stijl, which is like a Dutch movement or something, which you might have seen. It's the one with like the boxes of what like white canvas, black like straight lines, perpendicular lines, and then the boxes are coloured in with like red, yellow and blue, and it's a sort of like movement where people look at it and be like, why is this a style, how is this art, etc, etc. Maybe it's a book. Okay, so that's either Fauna or Lily, and we have no way of knowing, so we'll just guess Fauna and we'll see whose it is. I wish I was... I mean, maybe it's like a depiction of like different lost items between like personality A, personality B villages, but maybe it's not, I don't know. Or maybe, you know, I wonder if people have tested if a bag... If you can have... like, this was a normal villager bag. If I gave it to Lily, would she also accept it? You know, it's not pre-programmed who it belongs to. That can't happen, because now I think about it, because in this game you can actually have like full villages of just one personality type. So, but that'd be interesting. But I should say, I feel like if you're really good friends with a villager who it belongs to, you should be able to pick up a bag and be like, oh yeah, this is Fauna's bag. Or is like, oh, I think I've seen Fauna carrying this around sometimes. Because we're like best friends. You saying I wouldn't recognise my best friend's bag? Maybe. But, you know, at least have a good guess. So yeah, latest I stayed up is I didn't go to sleep, which is not a very exciting story, I suppose, but it happened. Trying to think what else. Now I'm just looking through these old photos that I randomly have. Weird. What is this? What is this? What's this? What's this? Music everywhere. Oh, I do remember this. It's coming back to mind now. Very vaguely. Weird stuff. Alright, I'm going to close that. But yeah, I'm going to round off this episode here. So, staying up late, and I guess a little bit of Black Panther was talked about in here. So what's the latest you've ever stayed up? Is that my question? I don't know. People have like questions of the days or whatever, which they like say like, oh, make sure you comment your reply. I suppose for engagement. I wonder if I should start doing that. But also, you know, I take so long to read comments anyway, so maybe that would be a bad decision. But anyway, I'm going to round off this episode here, so if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join me Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.